sucks for us, but
All right, well, let's get official about it.
all right. All right, the first one of the new year.
Indeed. Indeed.
Just
Welcome.
the,
I mean,
the flow.
I guess technically the year of the horse doesn't start for another month or two, but
End of February. It'll be my year. I'm telling you,
are you the horse?
I am the horse. So I expect all this paperwork to have a lot of significant meaning if I file it. Like I said, it's all in how I write it. I posted that thing. Those who cannot write will have things written for them, right?
It's the same concept as those who do not write their own programming will have their programming written for them.
Which is the scary thing right now because you got to realize there. So it's just a state Supreme Court just ruled on this. Okay, that so there was a guy who got beat and they couldn't find the guy who beat him. So they had a wild hair up their ass and they're like, well, you know what? I wonder if this guy who beat the guy searched the guy up on Google. So they got a warrant for Google, and Google gave him the information. It's like, well, there was only one guy who searched this guy. Here's the IP address. And the judge is like, well, it doesn't matter how we got the warrant or any of that because you used Google. By using Google, any information that you gave through that, we can warrant. And so it's like this. It's the same as this. So they're legally allowed to do it because you agreed to Google and say, when I click on this, you can use this for such and such purposes. They're trying to say now government has backdoor access to that. It's like going to a concert. We've all been to a concert and you buy the tickets and they're like, we're going to search you to come in. There's certain things you can't have. Cool. You get in there. And now the cops come to me and say, we're going to search you. You don't have a Fourth Amendment right because you gave it away because you came to this building. Well, no, I already went through the search. I was already found compliant. But you get on saying Google use is a back door.
Yeah. Well, you saw the gun laws changing up that I posted, did you?
I saw that they were on there and I've heard a bunch of stuff about it, but I didn't actually get a chance to
A lot of those
zoom in. And
a lot of those
yeah,
databases have now been deemed illegal and must be deleted like within 30 90 days. So it was like no, it's shifted up hard, fast.
well, a lot of those might still be the same as like what a car gets when you walk by that car. If you walk by a car with Bluetooth, newer vehicles, they automatically sync to your phone, anyone's phone that walks within radius of it,
Mhm.
and they download all that information. They sell it to third parties. There's been class action attempted to try to do stuff about it, all failures. So,
Yeah, it's a good thing to not leave on if it's not in use.
well, that's why the internet always. I've worked in the dealership. The internet always sucked there. Trying to connect to the internet to diagnose the car was a pain in the ass, even though they had really good internet, because so many brand new vehicles all trying to connect to every single network around. You know what I'm saying? That has a real draw.
You know,
Why they call it right? It's because if it's in writing, it can't be wrong. Legal fictions. We got to realize anything we interact with outside of us, anything, you know, and you got in your TV shows, your video games, your convenience stores, you know, any one of these legal fictions cannot communicate to you in our vernacular, right? Only the agent of such a thing.
yeah,
And the thing is, though, they cannot write that down. The only thing they can do is check box, the paperwork. It's all in paperwork. It's all in writing. All they can do is write down their interpretation and write it down in the vernacular that these legal fictions can see, which is the paperwork. That's what's right. It's what's right before our eyes, especially for beings that don't have eyes.
wild.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you gotta embrace that gravity that's unfolding down on us from the new year. And there is a gravity. Like you said, made you right, made me clean. What else is gonna make me do? All for the betterment.
Always.
So yeah, that's one thing about it too. Right here before the change of the year, what do most businesses and corporations try to do? They try to get you in a little stagnant spot. Right at the end of the year, it's very crucial that everybody's stagnant. Don't really get anything done. Don't really do anything other than a meeting. It's just wasting time until after the new year, right? Don't you feel that it's a culture that has been created nationally? The last part of the year, just don't do shit. No wonder how crucial that is, for balances. We're talking about interchanging opposed conditions, you put yourself in that stagnancy, and then right,
Interchanging opposed conditions is duality. It's the masculine and the feminine.
yeah, but so take that with a state of mind. If globally or nationally, it is something that they impose upon you, even through your work. Everybody take these days off at the end of the year. Take the days off. We're gonna have so many breaks. We're gonna reduce hours. We're gonna do everything we type. That type of stuff. There's a lot of complacency, and even in the mindset of people is, I'm not doing jack shit. It's getting to feel a lot like fuck this. You know, it's just a thing. It's just how people get there. Now, I wonder how crucial that is to implementing the status quo on people at the beginning of the new year. Magnetic fields are changing. Get them low, and then you can get them right at the beginning of the year. You can get them trapped with whatever agenda we're trying to push this year, potentially speaking.
Definitely. Let me get some reminders sent out.
Get some other people up in here.
The, at least a couple of them.
Man, it's so hard to say that any of this information we're getting, which is backlog, you know what I'm saying by backlog? It's what is the truth of it all? Like, how do you know the truth of any of it? The only truth that is even relevant is literally the truth that you see in your day to day activities. And the truth of it is this: how the fuck can I trust a federal government or a state government when the local government doesn't act correct? Right?
Indeed.
And if you think about it, isn't the state supposed to regulate the local?
I mean, it's supposed to be, functionally, it's supposed to be the grassroots, which means it go from the ground up. It's not from the top down. So, no.
But in checks and balances, like when you try to hold a lesser court liable, who do you go to? A higher court, right? So who the hell holds
No,
anybody
no, no, no,
liable?
no, 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 no. Checks and balances is the bullshit justification that is used to imply
Still
hierarchy
it. Yeah, still it
because
all.
real authority comes from the earth, from the roots,
People
from
of
the
the earth.
ground, from the foundation.
Remember, real authority does not apply to robots,
Mhm.
AI. But in all reality, all our laws do apply to AI that already exist for it. With the idea of a straw man, with literally the fact that legal entities exist like Starbucks and Walmart, right? They have rights. Then by every instance, any artificial entity that we come across, robot, old, ancient, or new, with sentience, right? Or the illusion of sentience, technically has rights under Uniform Commercial Code.
Uh, Correlates, yeah.
Non-alienable rights.
Yeah, I definitely prefer non to un.
Unalienable.
Yeah.
Unalienable. Alienable. Yep. Kind of in that zone still. Kind of in that whole complacency, ride the gravity waves, you know, been doing nothing productive for the past month, you know,
Pretty much
coming here.
that's December for me every single year.
That's what it's everybody. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's projected, it's cast on the people because nothing's changed. It's one day past the next day. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's all it's on a fictional basis, just like these entities such as Walmart and Starbucks that rule over us. You know, it's all and it's the paper. You got to realize these papers, no matter what paper you type, that is the spell with which you cast interaction between you and the medium, such as Starbucks, Walmart, the courts, anything outside of us. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to use their forms, here, you want to deal with the IRS? Why don't you use one of our forms?
Mhm. Right.
Then they just cast the spell. They've limited, they've conditioned your spell. You're now duped. You've now been
Well,
duped, and you did exactly what they wanted you to do.
and the funny thing is that none of those forms are necessary or required. You can perform all of you can request action by various means of communication. The forms are just a template from which to operate within. Like you can do all of the things without the forms, but the forms are their way of understanding. Like if you use the form numbers in your own writing, then that will give them then that will streamline, but you don't how they handle your submissions, but you don't actually have to use their forms.
See, I kind of look at it like the best opportunity is this. Like I've heard a whole lot of shit. I've never been, a believer in their paperwork. But I heard a whole lot of shit about trying to not pay them and start filing your 1099 X's and all these paperworks to get you out of it. And I think the best solution literally is this. Finish out whatever year that you got going on. And then when the new fiscal year, when they start counting the new season, make sure you change over to exempt and quit paying them. And then at the end of the year, don't pay them. And then when they finally think that you're not paying them, then you start casting your spells in defense. Because when you start trying to fill out their forms in advance, it's using their medium
Yep.
to inform them that you're trying to secede. They do not want that. Now, simply doing the act, like I come to find that in all of this, you have in all of this paperwork, whole spell casting bullshit that exists in order to exist in a world of physical beings where everybody's fake because unless they can convey it through this spell, it has no substance.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying? The whole
Yes, I
fake world
do.
is the leading world of the world, right? Oh man. Anyway, the best action is to do action that causes them to attack you, even in a court scenario. You have a better chance, like this is what I'm saying is so important. I type these papers up and actually follow through with it. It's a whole different ball game when you're actually being the aggressor with your spells using the system against the system than when the system is coming at you and you are now required to cast spells in written form. And what's the best practice there? Write your own paper, your own format, your own anything, and make them jump to conclusions
Yes.
about what it means.
Yeah, no,
So
and
why not the same with the IRS?
I would say that I've become an adept at defensive magic, but the aggressive or offensive magics are things that I've not dabbled into yet, and I think that's this year. We're
Well,
gonna open up
so
some doorways.
when you're driving down the road and you know your headlights out, and you pass a cop sitting on the side of the road, and you sit there and think, "Don't pull me over! Don't pull me over! Don't pull me over!" Next thing you know, he pulls you over because there's that thing magnetically or in whatever it is. There's that connection there of him being manipulated by you, and he'll pick up on that. Now, the same thing applies in defensive magic. You already have the upper hand when they are coming at you with ill intent. As long as you don't succumb to the gravity of their groupthink and you maintain a high thought vibration, you can counter any spell. You get what I'm talking about with
Yep.
that writing.
Yep.
Now, that's what I'm saying. You already have the upper hand there. Now, when you're going against them, sometimes you don't necessarily have the upper hand because when you're instigating the legal battle against them, right? It's just changing the point of observation. Now, like you get what I'm saying. It's there's
Yeah.
a whole different game to chess when you're playing as black versus when you're playing as white.
Yeah, indeed. But no, it definitely is pertinent to make sure you understand the rules that are being operated under, and that's where the clarification that you were saying, is this maritime or is this common law? Because the Constitution, what was the 14 in the I can't remember, but I was like, oh, that's high key pertinence because like how can a person be expected to be able to defend themselves as per constitutional dictates if they do not know under which rules they're operating under to be
So,
able to
which rules are
structure.
we operating? None of those ones you mentioned. We're operating on the rules of reality. I'm
Yeah,
operating on the rules and the agreements that I made in order to exist in such a realm.
yeah,
So I always follow those rules first. That's what I'm talking about. That's the flow of manipulation. That's
yeah.
why I cast my own spell. That's why the more you start, who gives a shit what they label it? That labeling is just so you'll take the bait and get caught up in it. You get what I'm saying? In all reality, there's other magics going on, which is why are you here today in reality? And how do you maintain that state of awareness in reality? If that makes any sense at all, because the solution really is in that path. Every single reaction is outside of that path. When you say, I almost say that when you achieve ultimate awareness, you don't exist in any dimension of any, because there's a different dimension, there's a different reality where every single thing is possible at any given time, theoretically, right? There's parallel dimensions. This is what I'm talking about. Now, when you actually achieve the state of choosing everything that befolds before you because you're not reacting, then you don't exist in any of those dimensions at all. You actually exist outside of it because every one of those is a manifestation of your next choice in real time. You don't exist in any conditioned, that's the only way free will exists.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
in order to have mastery over any compartment, you cannot be in the compartment.
Well, so sacred geometry, same exact thing. This is why I always start. The first circle in sacred geometry is mind. That's the one that's in charge. That's where the rules are in charge. The second set outside of that is the body. Then the set outside of that is the world. And the set outside of that is your corporations. You get what I'm talking about.
So the perception is inside out though, because the mind is at the center of this compartment, but really you have to take the consciousness out of the mind to observe the mind as what it is.
Well, look into it three-dimensional. So if that inner circle is your eyeball, and you take a pyramid that's drawn from that, and it goes outward to the set of circles that you're dealing with, just make sure that you sit in the circle where your mind's at, and you're looking at the tip of a pyramid into the solution instead of being converted to being a figment of or an actor in the
The
set of
pyramid.
circles outside yourself.
Yeah.
Because then you're just taking a different point. If you take any point in any circle outside that first circle and you let that be your point of observation, then you're bound by the rules of that circle. Just like in magic, any symbol that has a circle around it,
Yes.
right? And since it's kind of inverse when you look at it, that first circle has no circles outside of it. Everything is actually inside of it. Every other circle outside of that comes from inside that circle. If does that is that logically sound?
No, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like I'm actually getting a little bit of visual, geometry associated with that as you're speaking. It's coming in clear to me.
It's all like you've seen that weird. I think we brought that up on this before. It's in the channel somewhere. Behold the square, even though it doesn't look like a square at all. It has that round part.
Yeah.
Well, that literally is. That's what I'm talking about here with sacred geometry. That literally is it, looking into the hourglass. Looking into the world rather than because when you go to court, what's the first thing you do? They trick you into being an actor in that court.
Yeah.
And the court has these set of functions, which are based on how it all functions, but you need to play your part in it. Now you need to choose A or B. When A or B was never, that's their forms, you know? So since they put you in a position where you need to fulfill your duty, because that's what exists in natural law, if you want to build this thing they're trying to build, which is fundamental to all the actors playing their part in coordinates, right? Then you need to realize if you don't take the action to fulfill their demands, they cannot successfully grow whatever fruit they're trying to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. If the framework does not exist for the fruit to bear, then the fruit will not bear.
So it comes down to this. Anytime that you are presented with an option, you rebut that. That is always the third option. You can always rebut. You can look at it and go, why are we where we're at today? What's going on? Especially in question. What is this you're bringing? What is this you brought to me? Guilty or not guilty? What are you asking?
Yeah.
I don't understand what that means. I understand innocence. Are you asking if I'm innocent or not innocent? They're not asking you that.
Right.
You know, that's not part of the role they're getting you to play. So even that right there, that's a prime example. Anytime, like I like to keep going to Ip Man, the guy who trained Bruce Lee, because that guy in martial arts was a prime example in martial arts of the same things I'm explaining now, because that's all any of it is. Since nobody wants to be real and we all want to live behind our fictional god,
All right.
like literally, it even in people's own minds, they don't even know who they are because they've created a fiction of who they are. And this is how I got to interact with there. This is the mask I got to have with this people. This is,
I mean,
you know,
guilty. Guilty. I've done that.
I wouldn't know that it's a thing if I wasn't guilty of it myself.
Yeah.
Now, fundamentally speaking, this is all a product of money. Like, and you come down to this, there's all this SETI research, search for extra intelligent, extra, uh, search
Extraterrestrial
for alien.
intelligences.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep. Anyway, you go into all this, well, you got to realize, what if you don't find these type of signals because the technology that led man to live the way they live today is due to being cast into a spell of money. You only make technologies that are designed to generate more money when money is the goal. There is no growth. There's only stagnancy, and that stagnancy is the money.
Yeah.
You don't find.
The money is the measure of stagnancy. The more money there is, the more stagnancy there is because it's been energy that's been converted into a monetized medium of exchange instead of being used as it is in energy form.
Well, then what are all these trusts? Are these trusts literally making more pools
Yes.
of stagnancy within? You know what I'm saying?
Uh,
You're dividing within the division.
yeah. Yes.
Here's
You're
the
not.
thing, though. I'm all
You're,
for privacy. right? Because that's what it's all about. It's about getting enough money to have your own private land because you can't do anything in their own land, right? I'm all for privacy, but you got to realize everybody's for everybody having privacy unless it's for us. We can't have privacy. We're not them. You know what I'm saying?
I don't
Yeah, we're
know.
for privacy for everybody up for
I'm
you.
I'm more for freedom than privacy. If we all had absolute freedom, we wouldn't need any privacy.
Well, I agree with you there. But as long as the system of money exists, as long as it's, it's this betterment, it's this idea of better or not sharing, it's this idea of possessionship. It has created this whole fictional realm without, so in all reality,
Well,
that shows you right there. Money
well,
is literally the blood of the dragon.
what you're talking about is monetization as monetization of interactions and relationships as the basis of control manipulation. It creates the compartments that we find ourselves trapped within because we're trying to operate in the confines of money. It's a what would you call it? A deviation from the divine plan. It's because the feminine is the creative force, period. Like they give birth, they give life, they create. That's what that is. To tap into the divine essence is that creative aspect. And then the masculine aspect is order, to which is where we exist in, which is what this world is in, which is where we are now. And that's a construct that has been developed on on the principle of money and monetization. Because without the money and monetization, there is no order, but there is vast creativity. But creativity without order is chaos, and chaos, is problematic in the development and progress of things. So we have to find the balance between the creativity and the order.
Well, I don't necessarily know if I believe that entirely because I want to say anytime this comes down to the Exodus. This comes down to where law is founded. You cannot put your faith, you cannot put all this on the church, but you can put this on the church's money. But if you put it on the money, just the money, then it diminishes the church, right? You can't swear on the church or
No,
by the church.
no, and that's just it. Is that creative that creative force, the divine feminine that is love, that is abundant, that is ever flowing, and as soon as you monetize it, you
There's
that
over
you
208 different kinds of love. Just remember
as
that.
soon as but as soon as you monetize it, it takes away that creative aspect and it encapsulates it and it limits it and it takes away its infiniteness.
Well, so I'm trying to suggest this though. Okay. These are all ideas we're coming up with of how it exists without the money from being inside the money. But I'm saying in a state without the money in the first place, you don't come to generate these fictional entities. I don't need something that doesn't exist to stand as a medium between me and because there's nothing, the only thing there is now actions. So if intent is hostile, right,
Mhm.
then naturally you're met with hostile intent, hostile interactions. If now generally where does this hostility come from? Hostility starts coming from being without that which is abundant, that is controlled by those who don't need that which they are in control of. Now, once again, this is through fictionals, fictional things, idols. This only comes from worshiping idols. Whether you realize that idol could be what you think you are when you wake up in the morning and put your face on and comb your hair your special way and walk out the door. That is one of those. The idea that you will belong to this organization, any name, anything that you abide by that is this fictional medium
Any
only exists due to money.
any compartment. Because order is absent creativity, and creativity is absent order, and those are the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And they have, and the only way to really make the most masterful use of them is to accept the reality that they are, and to balance them, and not give anyone a higher priority over the other, but to let them exist. as they will, like if you try to order things to too much of a degree, you end up with where we are, the patriarchy. If you try
We
to
shouldn't be
create,
ordering anything.
if you try to create without ordering, you end up in bacchanalia, which is equally abhorrent to the divine masculine desire for order. So
Now,
you,
order already exists, though. Natural law, it already exists. You can't deny order.
but
I
so
can't
does,
try to
but
create
so,
orders outside of order.
but so too does creativity.
Well, I'm not denying that because in creativity, I'm saying this: when we start having these idols through separation and money, you don't have any more creativity.
Right.
You're limited. You
You,
can't even,
you've,
your language can't
you,
even speak words
you,
outside
that's,
of these
that's because
cells.
it's because you've encapsulated it. You've
Yeah, now,
compartmentalized it.
so since we're compartment, so since we have been limited, we're cut off from the rest of the world that exists outside of money as human beings. Okay. And
The,
this
in-
is the
the,
case.
which is the infinite, which is the creativity, which is the love.
Look, love doesn't cost money, but it's not free.
Precisely. When you,
And
and
in a world like this, what do you have to exchange? You have to be able to promise some kind of sell. It's security. If it doesn't cost money, is it security? Same thing as money.
here's the thing is we have to, we
You
have
wouldn't be
to,
out there trying to steal loaves of bread if they didn't cost money.
we have to learn how to, interpret and accept that energetic exchange is real without monetizing it because that limits its potential and possibility.
Well, we already know what it is. So any religion, okay, even if it starts good and it's great, once they get all that money that they get for being a religion, if they don't immediately turn that into a way that any member of their religion can exist without the use of money,
Yeah.
then that church is already a vampire.
Yep.
It's not. Now, I agree there
Well,
could be
well, well, well,
symbiosis.
and that applies in any relationship between any conscious entity, whether it's a non-corporeal like a church or between two people. It's the same thing.
That's keep in mind relationship. We're not talking about a union here. We're talking about everybody got together on the relationship, which determines where liability flows and what we're selling on,
Oh,
what Caesar we engaging
I'm
on.
glad that you make the distinction between relationship and union because that's a very important one too, in understanding how the natural flow works versus the order that's imposed upon it.
So, living the life the way I live life, I think how the hell do people who pay taxes, indirect unlawful taxes by choice, how the fuck do they pay their bills? And I say that way because I'm I'm blown away. How do people pay their bills? I'll tell you how. The only thing that makes sense to me is they get onto a relationship and they spread their indebtment between the relationship. Right? Is that how people do it?
Yes, that sounds about right.
So thus forth, people don't even know relation. People don't know what unions are. I mean, how the hell do you even form a union
No,
in
no,
today's
no,
society?
no. People very, very abhorrently and indistinguishably mistake unions and relationships for each other without realizing that they are utterly different and
So
it's,
now we're trying to get into where this idea of this femininity and this unconditional love, if you will. Well, how does that even exist? Because now every interaction anybody can have with anybody else while they're wearing their mask, which is always, right, is about gain or loss. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Where does this love come into this? You know?
um well because love is gain for sure, and it becomes loss as soon as it becomes monetized, ordered, compartmentalized, structured because
So
because
now,
you lose the infiniteness. So no matter what, the order of it is to accept a loss.
I'll buy that. You know why? Because when it becomes something that only exists in your head, it is limited to not existing outside of yourself. Because
Yes,
most people who are in these unions, or, well, that's the wrong word, most people who think they're in these unions, right? The love that they have is their idea that's in their own head, limited.
yes,
It has been limited of what their partner is to them. And that's the wrong word, what their possession is to them. It's important that you look at it that way because that's every single aspect that involves money. Money has a weird thing to it. So if you have a lot of money, you might be able to buy people's realness because people seem to do more aspects of things they know they should do when they're getting paid. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's fake, it's more real tangibly because they're getting paid.
yes.
So with money, you got to realize the more money you have, it it's not that you don't have more relationships or less, it's that you have relationships of the opposite polarity. That's the best way to say it because each one your lover now becomes is are they what is love again? We're now talking about that. But is it for a financial thing? Is it for like you get what I'm saying? Now what are your employees? Because you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When you say you have to go home and sweep your house, but you go to work and all you do at work is sweep, which sweeping is more likely to be neglected? The sweeping at your own home because you're not getting paid to do it. Now, even though the sweeping at your own home for your own life is more real for you than the sweeping that you do all day more of the time for somebody else, right? It's more real. It has more, that's more of your livelihood. Why don't you sweep your own floor?
Yeah, yeah, but the value actually obtained, or the wealth or abundance actually gained from sweeping your own floor versus the sweeping for money is vastly different.
Yeah, it's more real. So
Yes,
we know that, but which one gets more neglected? So now that money becomes a driving force. So you got to realize in your physical actions, you are more likely to be a professional for your employer who's paying you to be the professional. You get what I'm saying? Now when you're the opposite things reverse. So say you're fixing your own stove, you know,
yeah,
you would rather fix your own stove more correctly because it wasn't the daily chore like sweeping. It's now one of those main things. It's like a out of nowhere something fucked up and you need that to keep living. So you now act in the opposite polarity where it's costing you money. But once again, now money's involved. Money has now applied the factor of realness towards repairing your stove.
realness, quote
You know,
unquote.
quote unquote. Yeah, you're going to get a better repair repairing it yourself than taking it to someone else. Theoretically, if you know what you're doing, if you're being aware and it's being real. I'm just so what I'm trying to get at is this though, because it's speculative that poor people, the love that poor people have, might be more genuinely closer to the idea of what love is than the love that people who are wealthy may have, just
So,
based on money fucking.
so what you're saying is don't outsource your work that needs to be done to anyone who does not love the work that they do.
Well, yeah, but there's different degrees of loving your work. It could be have nothing to do with the work, but it has to do with the fictional outcome you get because it helps with that mask you're building.
But that's
What
but that
work are you? Which
but that is just it and part of it. Like you, even if it is just a job, you can love the work that you do based on who it is for and what it is going to, provide in the grander scheme of things to enable that
intent
person.
definitely intent definitely has a a measurable weight. It has
And this is
intent is definitely
And this is
good
why
gravity.
and this is why community and family matter, because when you know the people and you know what they are about and what they're doing, it is easy to give abundantly, and without respite, because you know that it will, and be to the benefit of the all. It is to the service of everyone, to be of service
Now,
to an individual.
I wouldn't limit that though to family and and community. That's what I'm getting at. So in the natural order, the natural order, which is you get what you put out. That's really the natural order. It exists beyond this money. So I'm trying to say before we start trying to define what makes each one
That's
what they are.
I like that's very, 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 very important understanding and distinction to make is that you get what you put out. It's like
Before
that,
money, that's
that is the
you
part that
all
everybody
everything's
loses
always good
sight
for
of.
everybody until they don't want it to be good. Simple as that. So that is natural order. Before money, before us creating these fictions by which we are ruled, where money is its blood, right? That is community. And that doesn't have to be my family versus your family,
But
you
now,
know?
but now we have to make the distinction. Like you get what you put out, but if why you're, getting or putting out is based on the gain of money, then that's that encapsulation. That's that limitation. You're only going to be
Doesn't
able to
have to
get so
just be
much.
money.
If you want to get the infinite and you want that tap into that divine abundance, then you have to give for love to get that to put that out there, to put that love out there. You have to do so for the sake of it of that infinity that and then to live
Check
to
this out though.
stay out of this
Fanatics. Fanatics who do what fanatics do through love of their deity.
yeah,
Now, keep in mind, they're doing it for love, even though it profits the deity financially. Now, that's what I'm getting on Exodus again, the gold. You can't come in and swear on the church, and you can't come in and swear on the gold because it forsakes the church.
yes,
But if you place your hand on the gold and swear on the church, now everything's forgiven. If you place your hand on your testicles and swear on them, you have now testified. You have placed your hand on the sacred object. So, in all reality, love is it's a very powerful tool of deception. And I say that because love is contained mostly in people's own heads.
yes,
You know, until people know how to be real with themselves, there's no idea. It's not even learning how to love yourself because you're not, because that's, people can mistake that. You're not necessarily, you can see that as trying to learn to love the fiction you have created and mistaken for yourself.
yes,
You get what I'm saying? Because there should be no conflict in the first place because self is a fiction generated by money.
yes,
You know, I mean, society, the house you live in, you can't even go build a house anywhere because then they want a bunch of houses around you because the house you live in now becomes a tool to usurp you as a child. This is a good way to influence the words that are coming out of children's mouths to other children to build this self. Like there's so much shit that goes in this. It literally is all programmed too. This is literally step by step. So somebody asked me, they're like, "Do you really think that city council members sit around in their office and decide to make shitty intersections without remedying it to generate crashes?" And I said, well, I don't think they consciously know that's what they're doing, but I think policy dictates that that's what must be done. So
yes.
I do think that they are sitting in a room and doing this. Do I think they're consciously doing it? No.
No,
I mean, they could be consciously,
if they were conscious, they couldn't be doing it that way.
yeah, but so they could be consciously aware that they're doing what policy tells them. So look, they could have vigor and they could be acting in love towards being a city councilman to push the agenda that policy states, which is getting people killed for revenue for the city. You get what I'm saying? So they're aware of what they're doing, but they're not aware of what they're doing. Because
Yes,
every single action, that's what I'm saying. Intent's the gravity of the shit. You know, I could do the same physical action, literally walk into a room, take 2 steps, twist my head to the left, crack my neck, in the exact fashion, walk up to the sink and do the dishes with an intent behind why I'm doing the dishes. But there's unlimited possibilities of the intent driving that. Now, the intent driving that is where the love of your job comes from. You know, it's not necessarily lying to yourself if you just find it through a shade that's acceptable. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Look at it the way that it's good to you.
Yeah, so the love of your work comes from the love of the people you were doing it with, perhaps?
Or, right? Because it doesn't have to be the people that you're with. It really does not.
No, no, it doesn't. But
Because,
that's one aspect. It could be the people you're doing it for.
well, and that people could be you,
Yes, yes,
you know? That people could be you. Now, when we
absolutely.
start, it's when we take it from the original thing, that's you get what you put out. Well, then we got to find out what real gains are. Because real gains is not gold in a vault
No,
that's in your manor behind a fence where you don't talk to anybody because they don't have gold, right? That seems like a loss, actually.
no,
You know, the more that this money buys privatization, the more at loss you are.
no. The bigger your pile of gold, the more energy it takes to maintain that and keep it and store it and everything else. So really having more takes more.
Is that the trueness of why it's called debt? Is
Yeah.
it not the debt in monetary value, but the debt in soul? I mean, that's what makes a fiat currency, you know? The debt that you are indebted, like the walls you create by accepting this instrument. Yeah, we got to define what real gain is.
Yes. And that gets back into that creativity or order. Because in order, gain is monetized and measurable and defined. And in creativity, gain is none of those things, but is of far more infinitely more value yeah, and real wealth and abundance. And not only being that, but providing that further.
So
Or
when it comes to the point of art, so when an artist makes a piece of art, there is the monetary gain, which would be the ability to replicate and distribute that,
but as
or
soon as
there
it, but
is
as
the
soon as
gain.
but as soon as it is monetarily gained, then it loses its creative output. It loses its
Not necessarily, because every single person who purchased that views that art in a way appealing to them. You get what I'm saying? So now that art in a whole has now grown based on the interpretations of it that exists unanimously. You know what I'm saying? It's not just this
fair,
piece of art.
fair.
You know, now is gain because we have interchanging opposed conditions. You need to have the dirty aspect of money so that you can escape it. So now I can take how the art can grow outside of my mind because of the monetization,
Yes,
right? But
yes,
but now you need to figure out how to get outside of that with what you've grown. So when you've accumulated all of these cues, and that's the best way to say it, cues of perception, right?
yeah.
You got to be able to quit riding on that money wave, monetary wave. How do we do that?
Oscillation,
I've been doing that.
oscillation. Well, but it gets back to that monetization enables you to continue to pursue that thing that you love. But if you're doing it because of the love, then the monetization is a side effect or a natural consequence of it, rather than the goal of it. Then it is unencumbered and continues to give forever. But when
Not
it
for
becomes
everybody.
but well, that's because becomes monetized. As soon as it becomes monetized and that becomes the goal, then it loses its ability to continue to proliferate and gain.
See, now the more and more we talk about this, the more I see money as literally taking something that exists as a whole and dividing it in half. So in order for me to use money to have something, it means that without that money, you can't have it. So something that could have been there for everybody, like you get what I'm saying.
Ha
Money is
ha
literally
having or halving?
half both, exactly. You
Yes.
get what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's literally all it could be because as soon as it requires money,
Yep.
right? Then you can't have it without. You have taken it out of the hands of people who don't have money.
Do we cut the baby in half?
Well, we'd like to get the birth certificate, make one a living entity, and make one a living trust.
Yep. Profane,
For sure. For sure.
profane. That is the profanity that we live within.
Yeah, that dirty spell of money. I think before the money came around, it was here's how you harvest. It was people
Yeah,
living together to try to survive against nature.
out of love.
Well, okay, okay. I hate that word because that's an English word. Let's find a better way to say that. Let's find another language that is before that, and just get
How
that
about
one
how about
because,
how about out of union, out of
oh
singularity,
yeah,
out of
oh yeah,
taking the
I like
two
that.
and
Yeah,
interweaving it into the one.
I
That
like
is
that.
that
I'll
that
I'll
that
take
that
that.
is that
Yeah,
is that is what I mean when I say love.
I know, I know. That's one of the things. That's one of those words that has destroyed humanity.
The manipulation and monetization of it, the definition of it, yes. The
They don't really
experience the
monetize the
experience
love.
the experiencing of
They
it is
monetize fornication.
yes. Oh, this is a wonderful year already.
Uh, Climbing over walls, literally and figuratively.
Oh, unscathed.
Better be unscathed because there's so much more to scale.
Indeed. Indeed.
Well, do you wanna? We'll leave it there for this week because John
I'm
will be joining. The
I'm
shorter we might be able to get him to watch it.
I'm incredibly